All right, welcome in everyone. Thanks for everyone who's joining in live. Shout out to those who's are tuning in later. But also, yeah, it's been a minute since I've been back at it. Had a few weeks, things go wrong, just stuff happening. But as of now, sorry about the darkness too. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a little darker. I'm not in my usual spot. I'm on vacation. I'm in a hotel room, so thankfully, this will just be the only episode that I'll be recording here. The future ones, I'll be at home in my studio, all ready to go. But today, we are talking. I shouldn't even say two running backs because the one is just a generic, gigantic backfield, and the other one is. Let me turn this fan off. The other one is the Jets backfield, and that's Breece Hall and Michael Carter. So couple interesting prospects between all the Dolphins guys who they added. It seemed like they added every free agent running back from Raheem Mostert to Sony Michel to having Gaskin to Chase Edmonds. There was a lot they got, but all in all, hopefully you guys had a great fourth, and hopefully you're all doing well right now. Shout out to Fantasy Six Pack for helping me promote this or run this podcast and let me use their platform. Go give them a follow on Twitter at just, I believe, Fantasy Six Pack as it sounds, as it's spelled. Check me out on Twitter as well, Everyday FFB. But that is all I got. All in all, let's dive into these Dolphins running backs first, because there's a lot that could honestly, if they were the sole running back on that team, they would be decent. So let's start at the top with Chase Edmonds. His ADP right now is currently the beginning of the ninth round, fourth pick overall in the ninth round. He's looking like the RB 20-ish, that range this year. That's a lot of people have him as. In his first 8 weeks last season, he finished as the RB 20, so right in that ballpark. He was the first running back to sign a free agency deal. Not sure if that means anything, but I mean, there were some solid free agent running backs, and the fact that he was the first, I don't know, maybe means something, maybe means nothing, but nonetheless, we know that Mike McDaniel, he obviously likes him for something. If he went out and got him pretty much made the first signing of free agency with signing Chase Edmonds. What else do we got on Chase Edmonds? Just a little that he averaged 11 carries per game last season. He started off pretty hot. He had 4 straight double-digit fantasy performances. He was, doing well, and all of a sudden he caught the injury bug, and then James Conner just took off and won that bell cow workload and was just that guy. So now Edmonds is ultimately back in kind of like the same situation he was. I know Edmonds truthers don't want to hear it, but Mostert, Sony Michel, and even Myles Gaskin, they're gonna do something. They're gonna chip into that workload a little bit. But ironically, Chase Edmonds' best game came when he had 92% of the snap share, his highest of his career. He had, I want to say, like 22 points in that game. He was absolutely balling. So when he does command a full, 100% snap share or close to that, you're getting maybe an RB1. So this guy does have RB1 upside. We've seen it. He can produce it. It's just his situation he's in. Is he going to get that opportunity? Is he going to get the chance to be that solo guy? Is he going to be good enough to become that solo guy? So we'll find out. He only had 4 receiving touch, or he not only, I should say, he had 4 receiving touchdowns in 2020. Pretty solid. He regressed down to just 1 this season. He only had 2 total touchdowns on the year. It wasn't the best for Chase Edmonds finding the end zone. I think that was big parts in James Conner being just that red zone, end zone. He's getting that touchdown no matter what. We saw that quite a bit. Chase Edmonds, he came back to a little bit of a scaled back workload come week 16. If you took out, his injured games and just kind of put in his full workload games, he appeared in 10 games, averaged 10.9 yards per game, had a total of 589 yards, 5.2 targets a game, 43 receptions, 311 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. So Chase Edmonds, he, has, capability of being a solid RB2. It's just what the hell is going on in this cluster F of a backfield in Miami. It seemed like Chase Edmonds was that guy. He got his spots. He was free from the Arizona backfield. And all of a sudden, they went out and signed Raheem Mostert. So, Raheem Mostert, let's talk about him. He had pretty much a season off. He had a knee injury, did not come back, kind of just took the year off, made sure he rehabbed to the best of his ability. He seems like a boom bust type player. He's got a lot of speed, was clocked in as one of the fastest players while he was playing in 2020 and 2019. He had a phenomenal 4-touchdown performance in the playoffs just a couple years ago in 2019. And also, flashback to 2019 from weeks 12 to 17, he had 7 total touchdowns. So, Raheem Mostert, when he is getting going, when he's in his groove, he's legit. He's a solid running back. But the big question is, can he do that still? And it's going to be interesting because Raheem Mostert is getting up there in age, and it's, the RB cliff. How old can you get to before you fall off that cliff? So Mostert, as of right now, he's 30 years old. His birthday is April, so he's a young 30-year-old. He still has that full year. So it's going to be interesting. He's just hitting that 30-year-old cliff that, all the running backs love to fall off of. So it's going to be, we'll see what's going to happen with Mostert. But nonetheless, he's going to be healthy come week 1. He's going to be taking carries from Edmonds, from Gaskin, from Sony Michel, from them all. Myles Gaskin, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he was cut come week 1. We saw Salvon Ahmed play very, very well, who's undrafted free agent, very cheap guy, but he has a $21,000 dead cap, so basically they can cut him for nothing. So if Myles Gaskin doesn't prove himself, in training camp, in the off-season workouts, I think he's going to go bye-bye. All in all, if you look at Sony Michel, he was another late addition. It was really strange because we all thought that it was going to be the Edmonds Mostert backfield, that tandem, and we were going to have to figure out who it was going to be. Is it going to be Edmonds or is it going to be Mostert? Who was going to be the guy? And turns out it's going to be just a massive headache because they added Sony Michel. And by that, Sony Michel, we saw what he did last year. He came in and had a solid, few games. He had a solid run with the Rams when Henderson went down, when Akers was still down. But even when they were all healthy, we saw Michel. He was a solid running back. He was solid in the Super Bowl, solid in the playoffs. And if he, can stay healthy, he is going to impact this starting role nonetheless. It's just going to be a timeshare between the three, Edmonds, Michel, and Mostert. I'm afraid of them. I don't like any Dolphins running back. I know there could be value in some of them. If you get Edmonds and let's say Mostert goes down and just Michel's not playing his best, then Edmonds is going to be a steal of a pick, and vice versa. If you get Mostert and Edmonds goes down and Michel is a solid guy or is that solid, then Mostert is going to be a steal. But all in all, I'm pretty sure that these three running backs are going to be banged up quite a bit throughout the season. We've seen that quite a bit with those three guys. Sony Michel's missed time, Chase Edmonds missed time last year, and Raheem Mostert, missed time. So all these guys are pretty injury-prone running backs. That's kind of my belief on why that Mike McDaniel had to have, all these free agency running backs, despite having solid guys and Myles Gaskin and Salvon Ahmed. So it is interesting that they did this, but for fantasy purposes, if you want to roll the dice and you want to get risky, sure, I would take Mostert just because he's the the latest of value and his ADP is pretty much at the bottom. So you could probably get the cheapest on him. Michel, I'm not even sure if he's going in drafted and redrafts, but he's another guy who you could throw a dart throw at. Just keep your eye on the waiver wire. But all in all, whoever earns this number 2 spot is probably the guy that I would go for just because his value would be the best and his upside would be similar to the RB1 or whoever's the RB1 in Miami. But let's head on over to the other divisional rival, the New York Jets. This was an interesting one, folks. The Jets, we thought they had their guy in Michael Carter. He looked phenomenal, had a great season. It seemed like he had some upside there. It seemed like he could get it done. But the Jets decided to trade up and draft Breece Hall, the best running back in the draft. one of the best running backs, in, the last 10 years. This dude is a freak. I know the running back class in all wasn't the best this year, but Breece Hall, man, this was an A-plus type dude. If he was thrown in any class, he would be able to hang with the big boys. He's a stud. He set the NCAA record for most consecutive touchdowns in a game. He was just a beast at Iowa State. He reminded me quite a bit of Jonathan Taylor, in which once he hit that hole, he was gone, man. No one was catching him. He looked like a true superstar. So Breece Hall, he's a guy that, has legit RB1 upside. And by that, if you want to take a risk on him at the 4th round, that's his ADP 409 right now. I'm not opposed. It's a bit of a gamble. It kind of gives me, Javonte Williams flashbacks, if you knew or if you believe in Javonte. Myself, I believed Javonte last year, so I was kind of hoping that he'd earn that bell cow. Maybe Melvin Gordon would fall off. Maybe he would just get old. Maybe, he'd get injured, whatever. But he didn't, and it kind of worked out. Javonte was still a solid running back. So I think we're going to see very similarities with Breece Hall. He's a guy that I think can control and will own the backfield, but they're not going to kick Michael Carter to the curb like immediately. He's going to get there eventually. Breece Hall will become the 3-down back eventually, but it's going to take time. So Breece Hall, he's a guy that's slowly growing on me. I think he's going to be a second half type league winner type player. If something were to happen to Michael Carter, then Breece Hall immediately becomes an RB1, or at least in the tier of RB1 range, because his, upside and just ability is phenomenal. The Jets also have a solid strength of schedule, so he's not facing any elite defenses other than Buffalo a couple times. Michael Carter, the one thing that did shock me the most, he had the 3rd most missed tackles out of any running back this season. It's hard to move on from a running back when he has the 3rd most missed tackles of any running back. So Michael Carter, he can't get it done. He was not, the thing that interested me most was he wasn't really a 3rd round back. It was Ty Johnson. Carter, he would be coming off the field. He was only in unlimited snaps on 3rd down. It was always Ty Johnson coming in for some reason and stealing those 3rd down reps. So I'm not sure if Breece Hall is going to be that guy and work his way into the starting role, but Breece Hall certainly has that spot open for him. He's a great pass catcher. A guy, that once you get the ball in his hands, he could take it to the house like no problem. Another thing, like I mentioned, the Jets, they traded up for him. So it would not shock me. I know I'm contradicting myself a bit, but it really wouldn't shock me to see Breece, take over week 1, week 2, just immediately from the get-go. But it also, it wouldn't surprise me either if Carter put up a fight and, fended him off for a bit. But, it's going to be, we'll see what's going to happen with New York and what they want to do. Robert Saleh's going into his 2nd year. They did add a lot of weapons for Zach Wilson, the Jets. I think this is really going to depend on Zach Wilson and that offense. If you're in a bad offense, then you're just not doing much. You can't really score touchdowns, get your guys into scoring position. You're going to see, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson not play to their best. But if Zach Wilson is this true number 2 overall pick, a good guy, turns it around year 2, makes some sort of, not Josh Allen type leap, but if he does something, similar, something like that, then Breece Hall, he's going to be a solid player. And honestly, Michael Carter, he could add some solid value too. He's a guy that's going in later in rounds. He's a high upside handcuff is what I look at Michael Carter. So you're drafting him, in the Tony Pollard range, in, the Melvin Gordon range, in that, area where if the starter goes down, then your handcuff is going to be an RB1 or maybe high-end RB2 capable. So let's jump back into Breece Hall and, everything he's got going for him. They also drafted Garrett Wilson, so it's not like they put all their eggs in running back. They did draft another elite weapon before Breece Hall, ironically, Garrett Wilson. So he could also be a part of the focal point of the Jets offense. They do have 2 stud offensive linemen. They have a big Alejandro, I forget his name, is so hard to pronounce, but their offensive line is solid. And if the Jets, make it work. Mekhi Becton is the guy who I was thinking about. 6'7", big left tackle from USC. If he, becomes a true beast, in which this guy should be, then the Jets offense, they should be able to protect Zach Wilson, give him time, and put gigantic holes open for not just Breece, but Michael Carter too. So if it was up to me, and if I had a choice between, the Jets running backs or the Dolphins running backs, I would probably go Breece Hall. I think he is probably has the best upside for, I guess, the biggest risk, if that makes sense. You're not risking a whole lot, fourth round ish. His ADP will likely go up because I think Breece Hall is going to gain traction the more the season comes, the more, we see videos of him running and doing stuff like that. And then, not to mention, every year in the last 7 years, we've seen 2 running backs finish in the top 24. So, worst case scenario, Breece Hall's finishing in the top 24. He's not going to be one of those 2 rookie running backs that does finish in the top 24. I can't see him busting that hard unless he gets injured. So if Breece Hall stays healthy, plays a full 17 games, this dude could be legit. He could have a Javonte Williams type season where if he's just very consistent, and then maybe he gets a couple games where he is that bell cow back. He is that guy. Michael Carter's down, or they just want to make him, Breece Hall, the dude. And he has his, big breakout game. So Breece Hall is the best value out of the 2 AFC East teams, the Jets and the Dolphins. But all in all, between Jets, Dolphins, Bills, and Patriots, I talked about Damian Harris and Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, James Cook, and them a couple episodes ago. So if you bunch them all together, I think Breece Hall takes the cake. I think he brings the best value out of any AFC East running back. He's going to be my AFC East, my guy. It's something I literally just thought of in my head right now. I'm going to be doing my guys for every division. I'll be calling them out on each episode too that I'm doing. I'm going to be getting back to daily Friday episodes, revamping my fantasy football knowledge, getting back into stuff. Vacation is over tomorrow, sadly, but I'm getting back in the swing of things. Got Fishbowl starting on Monday. I cannot wait. Repping the Traverse City group. So yeah, it's going to be a good time. Thanks everyone for joining, listening. Shout out to Fantasy Six Pack once again, and Joe Bond. Thank you all. I appreciate that. But I will see you all next week, Friday, to talk some more running back breakdowns.